All right, everybody seeing the screen over here, the presentation?
Yep, looks good.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Saray. So today we're going to talk about fraud and identity theft and measures to prevent it, identify it, and mitigate it. You know, we try to stop it before it happens. Doesn't always work. So if it does happen, we identify it and then we mitigate it. And fraud is, you know, it's such a bad word and people are so scared of it, but it happens to almost everybody. And so hopefully it's you know something we can manage and something we can address and prevent in the future. So that's why we're here today. So we're going to talk about a couple different types of fraud, how to identify it, stop it, prevent it, current trends in fraud, and then what has happened during COVID-19. So unfortunately, we're still in COVID-19, but we're getting there, guys, right? And really, it's presented an opportunity for fraudsters. Oh, screen's missing again. How did I keep doing that?
Yep, I was just going to let you know. As soon as it went up, it looks like your slide dropped back down. Yep, we can see it now.
Okay. All right, so if I page down, can you still see it? You can't.
See.
There we go.
Yep, looks good.
All right, cool. Thanks. I promise, Melvin, I'm not a technology idiot. It's just it's one of those things. So, all right. So let's talk about the first type of fraud, and this is really one of the ones that's the hardest because you know you have your card with you, and as long as you have your card with you, you feel like it's safe, right? So this is called card present fraud. And what is it? So it's face-to-face transactions at the point of sale locations or ATMs, anywhere you swipe or insert your card, or these days with the contactless cards where you might tap it, right? So this type of fraud, you know, the cards are considered safer because it usually requires a signature or a PIN to complete the transaction. So how does it happen? Well, counterfeit cards, you know, people find card numbers, they buy card lists. If you think yours isn't on it, you're wrong. There's somewhere out there on the deep, dark web where your card information is out there. It's just probably sitting dormant until somebody buys that list and may try to use it. There's skimmer units. So skimmer units are those things that are attached to the point of sale or inside the point of sale units that read card information when you insert the card. There's also card number copying, and that's the old style, you know, swipe machines where they have carbons, or someone takes your card at a restaurant and goes and writes down the card information. You know, those are all things that are viable. So we just hope that you know that we're doing the right things to stop it from becoming a fraud on your account. So how do we stop it? So there's a couple ways. There's virtual cards such as Apple Pay, Google Pay, etc. And then chip cards. They help to combat this type of fraud using tokenization and encryption. What that means is your actual account number is never being sent to the merchant. It's also not being sent to anybody that you're using online. It's sending a token, and this token is encrypted. It's 400 characters or something like that. It's sending it over, and it's sending it from Visa to the merchant and saying, "Are you okay to accept this?" And then vice versa. And so if everybody approves it and it recognizes it's a valid card and it's a valid account and it's valid funds, then it processes the transaction. But the key there is that it's encrypted. No one ever sees that information. They don't see your account information. That's how it keeps it safe. Contactless cards are the ones with the little, what looks like, I don't know, upside down pyramid where it's the little squiggly lines. And so those are the ones where you tap it on top of the unit. Like Costco has it, Trader Joe's has it. There's a lot of, I think Walmart has it now. It's not only great for fraud, but it's also even better. It's great for fraud because there's no skimmer unit that can actually see this, right? If you're not putting it into the unit. The second thing is during COVID, it's fantastic because you never have to put your card into a unit where other people have touched it, which is kind of nice. So we also stop it, and this is going to be a theme as we go through this, and that's reporting unfamiliar activity to your FI, to your financial institution immediately. So important. I'm going to say it 100 times while we're in this presentation. Please report unfamiliar activity immediately. I'm also going to give you some other resources. If you're a Greater Nevada Credit Union member or not, your bank probably has the same thing where there's card controls, where it'll give you alerts and things like that for certain activity that will tell you that your card is being compromised. So how do we prevent it again? We keep the card secure. Don't write your PIN on the card. or keep in the same location as the card. I know this is an old school type of thing. People still do it. Please do not write your PIN on there. If you are putting the card in and you're using the PIN pad, cover it when you're entering information. This is easier these days now that we're all 6 feet apart, right? And I'll answer your question in just a second, Leslie. Inspect the machines before swiping or inserting your card, and check statements regularly to ensure transactions are valid. This is really important. You know, you have a certain time frame that you're responsible for getting that information to us and saying, hey, by the way, this is not my transaction. We need these as soon as possible so we can get that credit back to your account and get it reviewed with Visa. So here's a fun tip. To use your debit card safely at a gas station, pay at the pump, put your debit card back in your wallet and use a credit card. Or you can use your debit card, but use it as a credit transaction. So don't use it as a PIN. The reason is the automated fuel dispensers are the only business sector in the country and probably the world that are not required to have EMV card technology. So when we went to the EMV chip card years ago, the responsibility for disputes went to the person who was prepared. So us as a card issuer, we sent out cards with chip technology, trying to protect our members. Now, if you went to a merchant that didn't have the chip technology to insert it, then if there was a dispute, they would have to pay for it. So the only ones who are not part of that are gas stations, because the sheer number of units and the cost to replace those. So the card vendors, Visa, MasterCard, American Express, have not required them to do so until October of 2021. At that point in time, they'll be responsible if they don't have their terminals updated to accept chip cards at least. So I would just say be cautious. You know, I try to use a credit card. If I have to, for some reason, if the only card I have on me is my debit card, I'll use it as signature. Worst case scenario, if you use it and use a PIN, then just make sure that you're checking your statements and making sure that anything after that transaction is yours for a period of time. Make sense? All right. Card not present fraud. So what is this? This is online activity that doesn't require your physical card. So this is our online shopping, right? This is Amazon, this is whatever. So it's riskier because there's less data required for authentication. How does it happen? So intercepted mail, so people, you know, getting mailboxes, it happens all the time. Phishing scams, data breach lists, and social media scams. So we'll get into a couple of these a little further, but literally it's just people getting your card and copying that card and using that information in a digital way. So how do we stop it? You report the unfamiliar activity to your financial institution immediately. I think you've heard that before. And then how do we prevent it? So use your cards on trusted sites. Consider alternative payment sites such as PayPal or Visa Checkout. The reason I say that is because it kind of puts a middleman in there, right? So it puts a middleman in the way at PayPal, where I'm giving my account information to PayPal, but then PayPal is transmitting tokenized information to the merchant. There's also some rules in PayPal that make it easier to dispute things, so that's kind of a cool thing. And then frequently review your statements for unknown activity. Look for things like test transactions. So if you see a Google Pay transaction for 5 cents, you might be like, oh, it's only 5 cents, I don't care. But really what they're trying to do is they're testing the card to make sure it's still valid, that the expiration date they have is working, and that they can run transactions. So the 5 cents is the first one. The next one will be a bit bigger. So make sure that you're checking for that. Okay, so time for questions. So the first one in the chat box is, the card is physically safer, but what can we expect safety-wise on storing my card information digitally? It's a great question, Leslie, on the Google Apple Pay. So hopefully you all have your phones secured, right? You all have a password on your phone. Please don't tell me if you don't. But automatically that secures it. The other thing is the devices themselves have to be approved. So if I load my Greater Nevada Credit Union debit card onto Apple Pay, if there's some reason that it doesn't match, like if it's not my name or my phone number that we have on file at Greater Nevada, then it sends it to a representative and says they have to review it. So they'll validate everything and then allow it. If it doesn't match, it's not allowed, and we're not allowed to add it to Apple Pay. So that's one of the ways it stores the information more safely digitally. Hope that makes sense. What other questions do we have?
Okay, Patty, this is Michelle. I have one for you. Does it make a difference to go to that vendor and let them know that you think your card was compromised by their establishment?
Yeah, so this is a great question, and I'll answer it two ways. So let's say it's Walmart, right? Walmart's huge, and so I'm not going to go to my local Walmart store and say, "Hey, by the way, I use my card here." They don't care. All right, so you can go to the merchant and you can reach out to the merchant online and say, "I have a dispute," and sometimes they'll respond. But I would say really go to us, and we'll send it into Visa. Visa sends the information to the merchant and says, "Prove it," right? Now, let's say it's a local restaurant, and I know a local restaurant that I go to, and my card was compromised there. Yeah, I would absolutely. We had the situation a couple years ago where a local restaurant had quite a bit of fraud in over a month-long period, and so I called the owner of the restaurant. And I said, just so you know, I've had 10 complaints, 10 disputes filed for your restaurant, and so I need you to take a look at it. I need you to look at these transactions. He found that they were one person doing all the transactions and narrowed it down to a staff member of his. And so he was able to mitigate the situation. So yeah, I think it can be a great thing. And so that's me, the issuer, the card issuer. But sure, if you feel comfortable doing that, I think it's a good service that for you to do that for that vendor, because then they can look into other stuff to make sure that nothing else is happening under their watch.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So Leslie, you asked a question. I like the ease of using platforms like Venmo. So are they in the same category for safe use? So here's the good and bad news. Venmo and Zelle are super, super convenient. The bad news is they're also super convenient because they're account to account transfers. So this is the same type of transaction as a wire. So when you send funds from Venmo or Zelle to another bank account, they're gone, period. You can't dispute them. And so please make sure that you know who you're sending it to. Make sure if someone gives you a Venmo handle to send funds to, that you have the right information. It's unfortunate, but if you look at the Venmo and Zelle rules, it actually says, you can't dispute these transactions. So please be careful on those, but use them because they are great channels, but make sure you know who you're sending your funds to. Also, don't ever send funds to someone who requested them that you don't know. All right, I'm going to say that a couple times in this presentation, but it's so important. If you don't know them, don't give them money. Like, if they walked up to you on the street and said, "I need $300," if you wouldn't hand it to them, don't do it digitally either. Make sense? Okay, awesome. So next question. So I know a guy. So this is the online and social media fraud. This is, the bane of my existence these days, I'll tell you. So what is it? Well, people build relationships, quote unquote, with people on networking sites and are then asked to send money, deposit money. They're often referred to as romance scams. Online scams may also include fake emails from Apple asking for login info, for example, and other phishing attempts. So let's talk about, let me talk about the online scams real quick, the fake emails. My husband just asked me this week. He's like, "I got an email from Amazon." I said, "And what'd you do with it?" He says, "I deleted it." And I said, "Good for you." So here's the thing. You all have accounts with Apple, you have Amazon, you have PayPal, you have Venmo, you have all these accounts, right? They're not just going to send you something that says, "I've locked your account because the card is expired." So first of all, it's not, right? Second of all, go to that site. Go to PayPal and look in PayPal. And if there's something that they need you to do, it'll be secure in that website. It'll be in secure messages. Same thing with Apple, same thing with Amazon. So anytime UPS, FedEx, I get it all the time, right? Because I'm constantly ordering stuff and safely, by the way. But I'm constantly ordering stuff. And when it comes, I get notices that UPS has tried to deliver, blah, blah, blah. Okay, no, they didn't, because my husband's at home and the window to his office faces our porch. So no, you didn't. Delete. So they're all spam and they're all phishing, and so just be careful. I would say use extreme caution when clicking on any of those things. I would rather you delete them, go to the site that's in question, and make sure everything's okay there. Make sense? All right. So let's talk about the building relationships thing. So how does it happen? Well, members are willing to help friends by sending funds or allowing deposits into their account. They're then asked to send the cash back to their friend. So funds come back as fraud, and then it's responsibility of our member. So Unfortunately, this happens literally every day. So, the pandemic, we'll go into this a little bit during the COVID section, but pandemic was ripe for this, right? People are home, they're home by themselves. They have time on their hands, and so people are making friends, and they're asking, I don't have a bank account, but I need to get my unemployment check. Can I use your bank account? And then you can send it to my mom. There's no level of, there's no end to the level of fraud that is happening to these things, unfortunately. So, I'll talk to how to prevent it, but that's what we're seeing. Then there's also the times where members give third parties account information, which then is used to conduct withdrawals and transfers. Usually those happen hand in hand. It's not always, but a lot of times it does happen hand in hand. So how do we stop it and prevent it? So do not send money to people you've never met in person, or accept money from unknown or unexpected sources. So, that's pretty clear. So just, if you've never met them in person, and you don't know them, and there's no such thing as free money, that's a saying for a reason. So don't accept money from people you don't know, and don't send money to people you don't know. Do not give out banking credentials or account information to anyone who's not on the account. GNCU will ask for identifying information, but it'll never ask you for a password, your PIN, or your social security number. Period. Those aren't things that we ask you, and we will certainly never call you and say, hi, Bob, I'm calling because I need this information. It's not a thing. We don't do that. So think twice, then think again. We want to think the best of people, but can you afford to take this loss if it's fraud? And hopefully, you don't have to be concerned about that. So if in doubt, contact your financial institution or local law enforcement for assistance. Just as I'm familiar with this information, our police department is intimately familiar with it as well, and they'd be more than happy to look at something if you have a question about something. So this is kind of a newer slide because we got a lot of questions in the last presentation, and it was, how do we help our elderly or vulnerable friends, family members? So, because we've seen a lot of this too. So a lot of them fall victim to the romance scams for sure, but I will share a situation that happened to my father. So my dad is 78 this year, and he's smart, and he's kind of tech savvy. But what happened was he received an email that said, we're going to offer you McAfee virusware for a full year for free if you just click on this link. So he clicked on the link, and they said, okay, we'll install the software on your computer, but you just need us to allow us access to your computer, which he did. So he allowed them access to his computer, where he stores all his passwords, where he stores everything, his bank account information. Luckily, my mom was in the background, as usual, harping on him, and called me and said, Dad's doing this. He shouldn't be doing this, right? And I said, you're correct, Mom. And so I made him hang up the phone. And so here's a couple things I told him to do. So number one, besides this situation, make sure that they keep items in a safe place. So if it's someone who's vulnerable or bedridden or has a home care worker, please make sure they keep this stuff safe. Checkbooks, social security cards, debit cards, etc. Put them in a place where those people don't know where they're at. I like to think the best of home health care and workers who are coming in to help. Of course, that's a great thing that they do, but there's some in that, in that situation that would take advantage of someone, unfortunately. So make sure these things are placed in a place where they don't know where it's at. Remind your loved ones or friends or family, whoever it is, that no one will call them and ask for information. They should always be the ones initiating the call. All right. Teach them how to block spam calls. This is what I did with my father. I said, block this call immediately. So whoever's calling you, block it. All right. So I taught him how to block spam calls on cell phone and how to flag emails as junk. So he's doing both of those. Then I asked him to put a password on his bank account at the institution where he banks, and so that they can remember this password. But when they call in, someone has to have a password. And it's a password like, let's say it's my favorite movie is The Gladiator. So when I call into Greater Nevada Credit Union, they have to ask me, what's your password? And I have to say The Gladiator, or else they cannot assist on that account. And then be kind and caring, but firm. The people calling are not in trouble and do not need assistance. We know you're trying to do the right thing and be kind. Our elderly people are such big hearts, but they're being taken advantage of, and we want to stop that. So my dad, the last thing I had my dad do, it's not on here, but I did have him take his computer to Best Buy, which is a well-known, right, entity, and took it in there and they cleaned the computer for him. They cleaned it off, they reformatted everything, they put on new virusware and everything, and they're a reputable company, so that, you know, I was assured that he was okay. He also did immediately contact his financial institution, and they froze everything, so he's not out any money, thank goodness. But I was a little concerned about, you know, about what was going on there. So luckily that one worked out. Melvin, you have a great question. I get phone calls with my phone number as the incoming number. What do you do about that issue? So that's a big one. Spoofing is so easy to do these days, but there's so many people that do it, right? Now I'm getting all my spam calls are from Nevada numbers when you know they're not in Nevada, right? So the best thing you can do is just block it. There's no harm in blocking your own phone number because you're not calling you, right? So I would say block it, and then you can report it as spam if you know who it is to the local police department. But as long as you're not answering it, you're probably not in you're not in danger. We have had fraudsters spoof the Greater Nevada Credit Union phone number as well, which is why I'm reminding you that no one's going to call you and ask you for information, right? You should be the ones initiating the call. Does that make sense, Melvin? Does that help? Okay, perfect. Yeah, don't be afraid. I have like 200 blocked phone numbers on my phone because I get so many spam calls, and probably some of them are legit companies that I may need to talk to at some point. But you know what? They'll get a hold of me in the ways they're supposed to get a hold of me, like secure message on the sites where I do business with them. That's all there is to that. Okay. All right. So what are the questions? Okay, Leslie, this is my favorite. I get a lot of calls about my extended warranty. It's about to expire. Should I worry that they already have my information? Absolutely not. Those are random spam calls, and they don't have any good information. My car is 1 year old. My extended warranty is not about to expire. Not only that, I don't actually have an extended warranty. So, so no, they don't have proper information. They're literally just calling and doing what's called phishing. They're trying to get you to answer so that you can give them information so that they have information to use in a bad manner. So block it, right?
Hey, Patty, this is Michelle again. If someone has had identity theft and opened a new credit card and ruined your credit, can you have these items removed?
Yes, absolutely. So great question, Michelle. So you can do a couple things. I think it's actually, let me see. Yeah, so I'll skip ahead to this slide. It's on here. So number one, review your credit reports at least once a year, right? And you can get those through annualcreditreport.com. And then you can freeze your credit if you want to. So you can freeze your credit so that anytime you apply for credit, it'll come up and it'll say this credit line is frozen. You need to contact the debtor to ask them for permission, right? Now it's a pretty aggressive move. If you freeze your credit, it means that no one can see it. That means you can't actually get legitimate credit until it's unfrozen, and that takes a couple of weeks usually with the credit bureaus. The other thing you can do is if you dispute an item with the credit bureaus and they send it to the merchant and the merchant can't prove that it was you, they have to remove the item. Okay.
Patty, I have another question.
Yeah.
My dad recently got a card in the mail for the stimulus. How do we know that's legit?
Oh, that's a good question. So first thing I would do is I would go to irs.gov, okay? And all the answers for stimulus payments are on that website. And he can log in, which it's okay to enter your information on the irs.gov website. You can log in and it'll tell you how it sent your stimulus funds. So it'll tell you whether it went to a bank account, and it'll give you the last four of your bank account numbers, or it'll tell you a check was issued or a card. Now, I will say, Michelle, cards are usually the last group of items when stimulus funds go out, and all of the direct deposits went yesterday. So I would question it, but I would have them go to irs.gov to see where, and there's a link that says, where's my payment? So go look at that and check that out.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Melvin, so you get daily Marriott hotels. You've been given a free stay. I bet, right? And like they say, there's no such thing as a free lunch, right? So I hope that you're not taking advantage of those unless it's, again, so let's say you're a Marriott Rewards person, right? So maybe it is a free stay. Then go into your Marriott Rewards account, and there should be an email to that effect in their secure messaging to you. You wouldn't just get a phone call, and it wouldn't just be some crazy number from Chesapeake, Virginia, wherever. And so just be careful. But yeah, so it sounds like you're doing the right things, Melvin. So how do you get on the no-call list? House phone and cell phone. So you can do that on ftc.gov. Actually, it's on the bottom of the slide here, consumer.ftc.gov, and the no-call list is on that website. Okay. These are great questions, you guys. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to go back. So let's talk a little bit. We've kind of touched on it. Let's talk about identity theft. So someone uses your personal information to obtain credit, open accounts, file Social Security, unemployment claims. This is really prevalent right now. We have had employees here. We've had employees at Renown. We've had employees at the school district. That call and say, "Hey, someone's using my information to apply for unemployment funds." Well, obviously, when the states are processing millions and millions of unemployment claims, there some fraud goes through. So what you can do, how does it happen? Fraud perpetrators have enough information to gain access to your other information. So let's say they have your Social Security number. It's easy to get your date of birth or your mother's maiden name, and usually vice versa, right? Not from us, not from Greater Nevada Credit Union. We will never give you that information over the phone, okay? But yeah, that's why when they have these calls, these extended warranty, they're trying to get one piece of information, and sometimes one piece leads to two pieces, leads to three pieces, and then makes enough data to be able to commit fraud, unfortunately. So how do we stop it and prevent it? Some of the other items is access and review your credit card and bank statements frequently. If you get paper statements, which you shouldn't, and it does not arrive as expected, contact your provider. So on the paper statements, the reason I say you shouldn't, why should you? I don't want anything in the mail anymore these days, right? I'd rather you do everything online, believe it or not, even though there's digital fraud, right? Because let's say your statement doesn't arrive, it's because someone took it from your mailbox. So what information do they have on that statement? Well, what they have is they have your last deposit amount, they have your loan payment amount, which are questions, out-of-pocket questions that institutions use to verify your identity. So just do it online. Register online. If you're a Greater Nevada Credit Union member, you can do it easily on your e-branch. You can enroll for e-statements. It also reduces any fees you get for your monthly accounts, which is cool. Shred any documents with personal and financial information. This includes credit card offers that come in the mail. Review your credit reports at least once a year. I do this through annualcreditreport.com. Another preventative measure, we talked about this, freezing your credit, and said it's kind of an aggressive move, but if you're having that many problems and someone's gotten a hold of your information and made 5 accounts on your behalf, absolutely freeze your credit so that no one else can give any more credit, and then you can stop the bleeding, right? I would also recommend engaging an alert service that tells you when your credit has been pulled, when an address has been changed. Some are offered for free through your credit card company. Others may charge a fee. If they're charging a fee, confirm their legitimacy on ftc.gov. So so Leslie, you just asked this question, and great segue. Is it worth getting something like LifeLock? Absolutely. I have LifeLock. My husband does as well. We pay for it, and that's okay. It's a well-known entity on ftc.gov. And what they do is they let us know if an inquiry has been made on our credit, or if an address change has been sent in on our behalf. And so, yes, it does help protect your identity because it gives you the chance to prevent things from happening, right? So it gives you some of that timing and information that you need to stop whatever might be happening. I would also recommend checking your Social Security information on www.secure.ssa.gov. I do this. I started doing it. The story I shared in the last presentation was I started doing it years ago when I tried to register to vote, and they said, "You're already registered." And I said, "No, I'm not." and I was 18, 19 at the time, right? And they said, well, someone registered to vote using your social security number, which I thought was an interesting way to use my social security information. But so I registered at the Social Security Administration.gov, and you have to go in and you have to enter information, and then you can pull a statement annually. Actually, you can pull it, I think, anytime you want to, really, and you can see, number one, how much money you would be getting right now if you retired, which is kind of cool. So you can plan for, your escape. And then number two, it shows you how many funds have been taken out from your Social Security benefits. And so hopefully that statement 0 if you have not filed Social Security yet. So those are all really good resources. Okay, what's your questions? Michelle, you have one?
I know. Okay. I do. I'm just trying to figure out how to word it properly.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll move on, and if you think of it, let me know.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
All right. So let's talk about some fraud trends. So this is the good, the bad, and the ugly. So with the introduction of the chip cards, fraudsters switched to the digital platforms, right? And so, where we used to have a lot of card present fraud with the skimmer units and all that went away, right? Because those chips on the cards hold encrypted data, whereas your cards you used to have, it was all on the magnetic stripe that's on the back of your card. So the magnetic stripe on the back of your card used to be what was read at the point of sale units, and it contained all your account information. So chip cards, they don't have that, right? They have a token which then encrypts your data. So you can't get that by putting your card into a unit anymore, as long as it's a chip card. So that's pretty cool. But with the limited ability to engage current accounts, fraudsters are resorting to opening new accounts or soliciting funds from businesses or friendly propositions, things like that. So as you can see in this little graphic here, fraudsters, they adapted. And so there's 1.3 million more victims in 2017, stealing $16.8 billion from U.S. consumers, which sucks. So Stephanie said, is there a way to tell if there's a skimmer on an ATM or at a gas station? Yeah, so sometimes, the answer is sometimes. They're getting better at using those too, right? So it used to be, it was almost laughable how easy it was to spot these, because it was laid on top of the actual swipe unit. It was like a thing on top of it, and you could see the unit. So the story I always share was when I first started going to Redbox, because my card was compromised at a Redbox one time. But so I was able to use my credit card. I didn't want to use my debit card, right? So I used my credit card at the Redbox from that point forward. But when I would walk up to it, I would literally yank on it and pull it and shake it. And if it didn't come off, then we were probably okay. So nowadays, skimmer units are actually placed inside the unit, and so you can't really see them. So I would just say exercise caution. So use a credit card. And the reason I say use a credit card, I'm not trying to, pawn fraud off on credit cards, but it doesn't impact your funds that you need available on a daily basis to pay for things to live, right? So credit cards are a line of credit, whereas your daily debit card stuff is the stuff that you live off of. So we don't want to impact that in a negative way. Credit cards are, they go through the same dispute process we do, and so it's just easier to it reduces the impact of those funds not being available. Did that answer your question, Stephanie? Okay. All right. So some examples of recent fraud. There's secret shopper or energy drink marketing. So this is a random mailing that comes to you. So like I got one in the mail and it said, we want you to be a secret shopper for Walmart. So here's a check for $50. Go ahead and deposit it and send us back 25 and we'll send you the kit, right? And I was like, I'm not doing any of that, by the way. We also have some that have happened across the nation where someone's sending it and saying, we want you to be an advertiser for Red Bull. So here's $2,000 check. Go ahead and deposit it and then send us back 500 and we'll send you a vinyl wrap that goes around your car that has, Red Bull's the best. Red Bull gives you wings, right? And these are all fake. They're all counterfeit. You know, once you deposit it, your check comes back and then you're responsible for those funds. So don't do it. This one was a big one for quite a while. It's gotten less so, but that's an email requesting purchase of gift cards. So this would be like my staff getting an email from someone saying they're Patty and saying, hey, do me a favor. We have a meeting coming up and I need 10 gift cards from Walmart. You know, use your debit card and I'll pay you back. Please go buy gift cards from Walmart. So then you email them the gift card numbers. They take those gift card numbers and they use them to purchase things. And by the time you realize it's fraudulent, we're on the hook for those gift cards. Counterfeit card usage, account takeover, and mobile phone takeover. Mobile phone takeover was a big one. Samsung, a couple of years ago, was sending stuff to Samsung users that said, hey, your Samsung Pay or your account is suspended. We need new information from you. Again, you're not really going to get that. Go to Samsung, go to your provider, to your Samsung account, and look at that information. Don't take the word of someone sending you an email or a text or you know, a message on your phone. Go to your provider's location and your account and look in the secure messaging there. All right. All right. So we're gonna play a game. You guys ready? All right, Melvin, this is gonna be on you, just so you know. All right, so let's play a game. So question number 1, who should you give your PIN to when asked? A, the FBI, B, your dog sitter, or C, no one?
No one.
Correct. That's correct. Absolutely no one, right? Why? No one, those people, even the FBI does not need your PIN, I promise you. So excellent, great job. So question number 2, your second cousin whom you've never met needs help to get back to the USA from his trip to Thailand. What method do you use to send the funds? Wire, MoneyGram, or none? Don't send money to people you don't know or haven't met.
C.
You're acing this. You're my best student ever. Absolutely, yeah. I don't care if they say your second cousin. It's easy. I mean, it's easy these days, right? You can Google anybody and figure out who they're related to, probably. And so anybody can do that. So be cautious. And then question 3, can I throw away my bank statements since they don't have the full account number on them?
That's a no.
That is a no. First of all, you shouldn't be getting bank statements, right? But really, we don't want you to throw them away because they don't have a full account number, but because they have other information that can be an identifier when you call in to verify things at your credit union or bank. So no, don't throw them away, please. Shred them instead. Okay? All right. So COVID-19. So what has happened as a result of COVID-19? By the way, great job, everybody. Ladies, you all got the questions right too. Nice job. 100%. Woohoo! All right, so the COVID impact. So what's happened? Well, people are at home. They're lonely. They're building relationships online. There's been a marked increase in social media fraud. And by marked, I mean hundreds of thousands of dollars in the last year are lost because of this. So we went over the, how to stop it. And so just be careful. Those scams are still around and they're still happening every day. Unemployment claims are at an all-time high. Fraudsters are taking advantage of the states that are overwhelmed while processing claims. Not to pick on other states, but I will tell you that Ohio still does not have their stuff together. We are still getting fraudulent payments from Ohio to this day, even though the pandemic is now a year old. There's more online shopping. So there's more online card fraud and phishing. Like I said, use the trusted sites. Be careful of those sites that offer you, this beautiful, gorgeous Louis Vuitton purse for $20. That's not a thing. So be careful and don't use your card on those sites. And then there's other scams that are trying to scare people into responding. For example, the links to new virus testing or vaccine, they're being offered for a fee. So just be cautious, please. They're taking advantage of people who are in a vulnerable position, and I don't like it. All right, so how can members help? And this, you don't have to be a Greater Nevada Credit Union member. This can be if you're a member of someone else or at a bank somewhere else. So how can they help? Well, set up account alerts whenever possible. If you're a member of Greater Nevada Credit Union, we have a cards app. And I have alerts set on my cards right now that tell me anytime it's used for over $200, anytime it's used internationally or at an ATM. And so you can set that up very easily on the Cards app. You can also shut off your card. Let's say you lost it and you don't know where you lost it. You can shut down your card until such time as you can find it, or you can report it to us and get you a new one. All right. Secure, I'll answer your question in just a second, Leslie. Secure devices such as cell phones, which contain personal information, as well as electronic wallets. We talked about this earlier, right? And so just make sure you're using a password on your cell phone. Make sure you know where it's at. Make sure you have downloaded Find My Phone in case your phone goes missing and you don't know where it's at, so you can locate it and figure out what's been done to it. Only use trusted sites for online purchases. We talked about that. Be aware of point of sale units. Don't be afraid to inspect the units like a crazy person, like I do. And then check your account activity frequently and report anything that's suspicious or fraudulent immediately. Last but not least, this is creating your complex passwords. So no more using ABC123$ or winter 2018. Increase your passwords to 12 or more characters with numbers and special characters to make them more secure. I don't know where you work, Melvin, but here at the credit union, we have a password vault, we call it. And it's a software where we store our passwords, and it allows you, it'll generate a password for you that's so random, no one will ever guess it. And I use that, as I was telling the ladies earlier, I use that because I have upwards of 200 passwords to remember. And so I use that password vault to generate my passwords, store it, and then I can cut and paste it when I need to use it. So that's kind of cool. Okay, so Leslie, I'm going to answer your question. I have a friend that's worried a loan was taken out in her name, maybe a PPP loan or something her Social Security was used to secure for her business. If so, could she be on the hook to actually have to pay it back? So yeah, just as we're having unemployment fraud, we're also having fraud from Small Business Association loan requests, which are the PPP loans. They're the Pandemic Payment Protection loans. So if her Social Security has been used, it was those things I mentioned back here, and that was, let's see, I'm going to go back to the identity theft. And that's check your Social Security information on ssa.gov, freeze your credit, engage an alert service. So you said her identity was stolen as well. Yeah, that sucks. So she should be able to call this Small Business Administration and let them know that she's never applied for anything. And then she can, usually what'll happen is they'll ask for some kind of an affidavit signed that has her signature, that has a notary, that has notarized her signature and a copy of her driver's license. And so they'll take that information and they'll compare it against what they have, and then they'll remove the information from her credit. They'll remove their information from Social Security. I would say that she should probably go ahead and go to ssa.gov and get a new Social Security card. I would also have her check all of her accounts, make sure that that everything has alerts set up, that she doesn't have any fraudulent transactions on her actual accounts as well. Sorry to hear that, Leslie. Michelle, I have had a situation where I had several fraud transactions. Can you walk me through the recovery process? Yeah, absolutely. So there's two kinds of fraud. Well, there's more than two kinds, but you're asking about transactions on a card. So I would say there's account transactions, and that's ACH transactions, like where unemployment funds have been deposited to your account. So you can contact us. So if, let's say, you're a Nevada Credit Union member, you can contact us and we will submit that to our ACH dispute team. They submit that to WestPay, who processes our disputes, and they have a certain time to respond to that and get those funds back to you, or tell you why they can't get those funds back to you if they verified that it was a legitimate transaction that you authorized. From a debit card transaction, debit cards are with my group, and again, you contact us. We'll ask you a couple questions just to verify. The transactions have to have hit your account, okay? We can't do them when they're pending, because sometimes the pending ones don't end up going through. But anything that's hit your account, please let us know. We'll submit the information to Visa, who's our card processor. And Visa has, so we have a 10-day period to get your dispute, to send it to Visa. They'll tell us to give you credit for the dispute while they're looking at it. They'll contact the merchant, and if the merchant doesn't have If the merchant doesn't have good proof that it was, that you asked for this information or you ordered this product or it was your card that was used, then Visa will say, okay, we're done. The credit is firm and final, and then you're good to go. Here at the credit union, if we see that it was a fraud thing, we'll order you a new card. Same thing with if it's ACH, we'll probably close the account and have you open a new account. There are other types of transactions that aren't fraud that can also be disputed. So let's say you join that gym, right? And you signed up for a 6-month free trial, and then they start charging your account, even though you canceled your membership. This happens all the time. It's the same thing. It's just called a non-fraud dispute. It comes to the same place. We'll send it to them. We'll say, show us the paperwork where she signed up for you to start taking funds out. Okay. So it sounds like a lot when I just said it, but if you go to gncu.org, go to our Fraud and Dispute Resolution Center, it walks you through it very easily. The calls to us can take less than 5 minutes, and we'll submit them on your behalf. We're really interested in making sure that you get your funds back as soon as possible. Even though I say this process takes up to 10 days, that's the regulatory guidelines we have. We almost always have them done within 2 to 3 days, depending on volume. So we want to make sure that we get you back on your feet with the right information, the right card, with a new card, with a new account if necessary, to make sure that we don't stop you from using your funds in a way that you need to. So that was a lot of info. Sorry. Did that answer all of the questions? Okay. I see yes. If I have interest charged on a credit card fraud charge, would that be refunded as well? Yes. Yeah. So any associated interest or fees. So if you had an NSF fee that was in relation to, let's say they took $100 out of your account fraudulently and then you got an NSF charge, yes, we would actually pay back those as well. Thank you, Saray, for posting that link there. Yes, we would absolutely take care of any of those fees because they weren't your fault. Okay. So we got back to here, and so just basically the last slide, and Melvin, this is more for you than anybody else on this call because they all know me. But here's some resources for your reference. Leslie, your friend may benefit from this right here, the identitytheft.gov. It walks you through all the steps that you should probably take if you feel your identity has been compromised. Krebs on Security. This is a gentleman. I don't remember his first name, but he's a fraud expert and he was a detective. He has excellent information on data breaches and fraud trends. So just literally subscribe to his Krebs on Security. You can get a weekly alert and he'll tell you anything he sees going on. If you want to know what the Skimmer units look like nowadays, he has some pictures on there on his website. He was also the first person that actually recognized and communicated to everyone the Target and Home Depot breach a couple years ago. He told everybody before Home Depot and Target owned up to it. So he's a great resource. I use him. I have alerts that come to me every day for him, and it's pretty interesting. Credit Cards has great data on cards. So if you want to know any credit cards that have the things we've talked about, that will do alerts for you, that will give you credit scores, that will do identity protection, creditcards.com has that information. Identitytheft.gov. Anything, by the way, with a .gov, you can trust. Those are not easily compromised extensions for URLs, and so you can be pretty sure that they are the government websites. So identitytheft.gov, I mentioned, will be able to help you walk through anything that she needs to do, like your friend Leslie, to get her identity back in good. FinCEN.gov we use this to report. So FinCEN stands for Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. It was actually developed after 9/11 to prevent terrorist funding. And so this is where suspicious activity reports and cash transaction reports are reported, so that they can see patterns of people doing things that are in a fraudulent manner and then address it if they need to. Finally, there's the FTC, that's Federal Trade Commission. And so Federal Trade Commission has responsibility for a lot of things having to do with banking and transactions and deposits and things like that. So there's all great resources. So please make sure you use those. And then finally, here's my group and myself. That's alertfraud@gncu.net. There's also Chang, that's mine. We're always willing to look things up for you, to check things out, to talk through stuff. If you're just, if you're just curious or you need a second opinion, we'd be more than happy to help any way we can. We're here for you, and member or not. I want to make sure that people are having a good experience with their financial institution and in being able to confidently use their cards and deposit accounts in a way that makes sense. So, any other questions? Let me put myself back on camera. Melvin, how'd I do?
Very useful. I've got
Awesome.
got a lot of surfing to do.
Yeah. Are you a member, Melvin?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
And
Perfect.
I've actually worked with you guys. I had a transaction come into my account. Somebody deposited money into my account that was not mine.
Yep.
And I contacted you guys, and it took you about a day and a half to take it out. Somebody was missing a paycheck.
Yeah, it's the unemployment, wasn't it? Yeah, I knew your name looked familiar. So yeah, the unemployment fraud is, it happens. They're just getting people's accounts and they're putting it in there, and then someone will contact you and say, go ahead and deposit it now, or send it to me, or get me a money order, right? Go and get me a money order and send it to me. So there's a lot of different ways that happens. So thank you for being diligent and contacting us, and letting us help you. That's what we're here for, and it's why we did this today. So I'm glad you were able to join us.
Thank you very much.
All right, ladies, anything else?
Hi, Patty. I just wanted to pop in. I'm going to thank you guys for all being here, but I just wanted to send a couple links. I did send our Fraud and Dispute Resolution Center, and in the email that I sent out, I hyperlinked it to the identity theft page. There's really good information on there. And it's just right on our website. I also wanted to share for our future seminars. It's coming up right now. Next month is a great one. It's with Nick Serrano, and it's on credit building and rebuilding. So I highly recommend that. And then just checking out, once again, that Fraud and Dispute Center, as well as the rest of our Greater Financial Wellness Hub. But that is all I have for you, Patty.
Awesome. Well, thanks for the opportunity today. I appreciate it. And if anybody has any questions, please feel free to reach out. We're always willing to help.
Awesome. Thank you, Patty.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.